David Goggins was not born extraordinary. He was born into violence, fear, and instability. His childhood was a brutal initiation into suffering, shaped by an abusive father, sleepless nights in roller rinks, and the constant weight of terror. He grew up with a stutter, with learning disabilities, with the deep, invisible wounds that come from being treated like you don't matter. Racism, poverty, and neglect weren't obstacles in his story. They were the environment. And yet, inside all that pain, a kind of fire began to burn. Not hope exactly, something deeper. A sense that he could either be broken by his life or break through it. But breaking through didn't happen with inspiration. It happened with brutal honesty. Goggins began by looking in the mirror and telling himself the truth. That he was overweight, that he was undisciplined, that he was weak. And he didn't run from those truths. He wrote them down. He posted them on his mirror. He faced them daily. That mirror became his first battlefield. He called it the accountability mirror, and it was where he stopped lying to himself. No more excuses. No more pretending. Just raw self-assessment and the will to confront every weakness head-on. When he decided to become a Navy SEAL, he weighed nearly 300 pounds. The recruiter told him he had to lose over 100 pounds in 3 months. Most people would have quit on the spot. Goggins got to work. He ran until his feet bled. He worked out through nausea, pain, injury. He studied for the ASVAB test while battling learning difficulties. He duct-taped stress fractures, ignored the voices that said, "You can't," and built a mindset that refused to accept limitations. He failed BUDS training twice, but he came back. Again and again. Until he made it through Hell Week not once, but 3 times. Not because he was stronger than everyone else, but because he had trained his mind to suffer without surrender. That became his superpower. Not speed, not strength, but pain tolerance. He calls it callousing the mind, putting yourself into difficult, voluntary suffering to harden your mental armor. Goggins didn't look for motivation. He created discipline. Because motivation fades. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It just acts. He invented what he calls the 40% rule, the idea that when you think you're done, you've only tapped into 40% of your potential. The rest is locked behind pain, discomfort, fear. And the only way to access it is to go further than what feels possible. That rule drove him to run ultramarathons, complete triathlons, set world records, and become one of the world's toughest endurance athletes, all while carrying childhood trauma, broken bones, and unimaginable exhaustion. But even more than the physical, Goggins trained his internal dialogue. He taught himself to use suffering as fuel, to smile at pain, to extract growth from failure. He developed what he calls a cookie jar, a mental vault of past achievements he could draw from when life tried to beat him down. Every time he overcame something, he stored it. And when he felt like quitting, he reached back into the jar and remembered who he was. His story isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. He failed the ASVAB test. He was told he'd never make it. He was called names, laughed at, rejected. But instead of being defined by that, he used it, turned every insult into energy, every doubt into determination. And with that mindset, he not only became a Navy SEAL, but also an Army Ranger, an Air Force tactical air controller, the only person to complete all 3 elite military trainings. But even after all that, he didn't stop. He kept searching for the next challenge. Because comfort is the enemy. He believed that the moment you stop pushing, you start dying. So he built a life around doing hard things, not to prove anything to the world, but to prove to himself that he was no longer the scared, broken kid hiding in the shadows. Pain became his compass. Fear became his invitation, and quitting was no longer an option. He once ran a 100-mile race without training, in excruciating pain, with broken bones and raw feet, not for a medal, but to master his mind, to test the limits of what a person can endure when they stop negotiating with discomfort. That's what Goggins teaches, that suffering reveals your true self, that most people are one tough decision away from becoming someone they barely recognize. But they never get there because they avoid discomfort. They take the easy path. They wait for permission. He says that greatness pulls energy from doubt, from rejection, from failure. And if you're willing to embrace pain, you become unstoppable. His life became a constant fight against weakness, not in others, but in himself. He would run in the cold when others stayed inside. He would train in silence while others waited for applause. He would put himself into situations that terrified him just to find out who he really was. He faced racism in the military, trauma from his childhood, physical ailments, and inner demons. He fought them all with the same weapon, relentless, voluntary suffering. The kind that no one applauds, the kind that no one sees, the kind that forges a man from the inside out. And it wasn't about being fearless. It was about doing the hard thing while afraid. That's why Goggins says you can't hurt him, because he's already been to the bottom. He's faced himself. And once you stop hiding from your own mind, there's nothing left to fear. His story is a mirror not just for pain, but for possibility. He's living proof that the human spirit, when trained to suffer, can accomplish the unthinkable. That the body is far less limiting than the stories we tell ourselves, and that every excuse is just a lie waiting to be crushed under the weight of discipline. You don't need permission. You don't need talent. You need to decide. Decide that you're done negotiating with mediocrity. Decide that pain is your ally. Decide that every failure is a stepping stone, and every moment of weakness is a test you are built to pass. Because on the other side of suffering, there is freedom, not comfort, not ease, but the freedom that comes from knowing you don't run from pain anymore. You face it. You own it. You use it. And when you do, nothing can hurt you. Not really, because your limits were never real. They were just a story, and it's time to write a new one. Because in the end, this book isn't just about running farther or pushing harder. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you gave away when life got hard. It's about remembering that you've always had the power to choose discomfort over regret, to choose discipline over distraction, and to choose responsibility over excuses. The world will never stop throwing pain your way, but you can stop letting it break you. And that begins the moment you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be relentless. Because the real victory isn't finishing the race. It's waking up tomorrow and choosing to run again, no matter what, no matter how it feels, no matter how many times you failed yesterday. That's what Goggins leaves us with, not motivation, not hype, but a truth most people avoid. You are your own rescue mission, and everything you need is is already inside of you, waiting for you to stop playing it safe and get after it. And when the noise fades and the world quiets down, what remains is your choice. Not who you were, not what you've survived, but who you're willing to become next. No one is coming to save you. No comfort will ever complete you. And no success will matter unless it's earned through struggle you didn't think you could endure. But that's where greatness lives, not in the highlight reel, but in the moments no one sees. The early mornings, the silent runs, the failure you don't post, the tears you wipe alone. Those are the reps that build someone unbreakable. Someone who doesn't wait to feel ready. Someone who keeps moving, even in the dark. That's what this story teaches us, that you don't rise by avoiding pain. You rise by walking into it, again and again, until the pain turns into power. So wherever you are in your own battle, just know, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to change you,